right, this is in response to a reader question. I'm being asked, what do I think is the next hotspot to go ballistic in the United States, requiring some level of, let's say, preparedness or readiness or maybe even survival? And my answer to that is I think we're going to see a major conflict in California. Well, actually, let me back up. I think there could be two possibilities. The first possibility is a false flag operation before the midterm elections of 2018. Now, who might carry out that false flag? There are lots of parties that have a motivation to carry out a false flag. For example, the left has a motivation to carry out a mass shooting or to be part of the recruiting of someone to do a mass shooting. You know, the FBI actually recruits people all the time to carry out acts of terrorism, and then they catch them in the act. This is well known. This is an FBI tactic. It's entrapment, yes, but this is what they do to claim they're stopping terrorists. So we know that law enforcement in the United States actually trains, or recruits, I should say, people who intend to carry out acts of terrorism. What if one of those is allowed to go forward or accidentally gets out of control, even without any nefarious intent on the part of, let's say, the FBI or somebody else? It can get out of control. And that is a very distinct possibility of what can happen. So that's one possible scenario. Another is what I was starting to say, which is political strife in California. This is where I see the Civil War breaking out first, if indeed there is a civil war in America. It's not a certain thing. It's maybe increasing in risk each and every day, with California saying that they are a sanctuary state. Now, if you think about what is a sanctuary state, that is a designation that they refuse to abide by federal law. And the reason this is going to become a major contested issue that could lead to armed conflict in California is that California has, of course, senators and congresspeople. And congresspeople are apportioned according to the population. Well, much of the population of California is illegal aliens, or as they like to say, undocumented citizens. Well, they're not citizens unless they're documented. You got to go through this properly. You know, my wife is a legal immigrant. We went through the process a couple of decades ago. We abided by the law. We went through INS at the time, and we got, everything legally done. And we followed the rules. But today, the left doesn't want to follow any rules at all. They want to have all these illegals just cross the border and come in and start voting in California's elections, which includes electing members of Congress. And members of Congress, of course, vote on national legislative issues. So members of Congress are being elected by illegal aliens, not even U.S. citizens in California, and their decisions are affecting you and me all across this country. That's not fair. I mean, you and I don't have the right to go to Mexico and vote in Mexico's elections and dictate Mexican policy to the Mexican people. Well, so why can Mexicans or other people come to the U.S. and bypass the rules and not be legal and not be documented and then vote in the elections in California and determine federal legislation in Washington, D.C. because their members of Congress were sent to Washington? This is an issue worth fighting against. We the people, the rest of the country, we have to stop California from protecting illegal aliens. We should strip California of the right to participate in Congress, frankly, if they're not going to require voters be citizens. I mean, they are surrendering any authority to participate in democracy if they won't guarantee that it's only citizens who are allowed to vote. Frankly, California should be banished from the Senate and all of Congress, or we should enforce California's voting laws to be limited to citizens. It only makes sense. But California, of course, wants illegals to vote because California hates Americans. The California government hates its own citizens who are legal, and they love illegal citizens who they give the right to vote immediately upon crossing the border. It's like you're practically handed a voting card and a driver's license just from crossing the border. That's California. So the conflict is likely to happen there. It will be a conflict, I predict, between federal agencies and California state bureaucrats. And I've called for the arrest of Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown. He should be arrested by the feds because he signed the legislation nullifying federal law when it comes to immigration. But immigration affects all of us. It's not just a 10th Amendment right. It's not just one state that's affected. Just as I've discussed here, immigration, illegal immigration in California affects us all. So we have the right to go in and arrest those criminals like Jerry Brown who are conspiring with illegal aliens to protect felons, murderers, rapists, child molesters, and other illegals who are routinely caught over and over again and then protected by the California government. It's time to stop that. It's time to issue arrest warrants for people like Jerry Brown and the mayor of, Oakland, and other cities that claim to be sanctuary cities. Those mayors should be arrested, marched out in handcuffs, indicted, and subjected to a trial, not in a sanctuary city like San Francisco, but a trial where the jury is made up of normal people who aren't brainwashed, progressive, leftard, obedient, communists and Marxists. Now that might be hard to see happen, but that's what actually needs to happen. So that's my answer of what I think is the next big flashpoint, let's say, of how conflict could start to happen in the United States. California is, I'm calling it the front lines of the coming Civil War. I believe California may not be savable at this point, and I hope that the people of California who live east of the West Coast, in other words, rural Californians and country people in California, Northern California, and all the other areas of California, I hope those people, I actually hope that they would, in one way or another, arrest their own governor. It needs to happen. They need to rise up, and they need to assert federal law in their own state, and they need to, I think, make citizens arrests of people like Jerry Brown. That's my view, and I know a lot of Californians agree with that. And I also think that the West Coast is lost. It's so far gone, it's headed for a state of collapse, that the rest of California would not even want to be part of any state or any economy that includes Los Angeles and San Francisco and so on, because those regions are lost. They're culturally self-destructing. They're economically self-destructing. All the intelligent business people and wage earners and taxpayers are fleeing those regions because the taxation is oppressive. Those areas will collapse. Los Angeles will be basically it will be a gang-infested hole. Los Angeles will become Venezuela, basically. Parts of it are already there, come to think of it. It's an untenable situation because of liberal policies that run these cities and states into the ground. But the best thing for California would be for rural California to announce that it's seceding from the left coast of California and Sacramento and asserting its own independence, frankly, which is what California is practically trying to do to the federal government. I mean, think about it. If California can say that we as a state are not going to follow federal law, then why can't rural cities and counties in California say that we're not going to follow state law? You see? It's the same argument. So that's where the conflict is going to be. And it's going to be a bloody, violent conflict at some point. I am sad to predict, but that's probably coming. Because the left will not listen to reason or law or follow due process or even engage in rational debate. They have no interest in facts. The left has become irrational, mentally ill, libtard, I don't even, how do you say it? Rampaging zombies who are immune to logic and reason, and they have no future. They cannot even run their own societies except run them into the ground. So that's what's coming. So a lot of places in America are going to be safe, but the certain areas of California will be the front lines, I believe, in the next great conflict. So we'll see if that happens. Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that California would come to its senses, but I doubt it. Read more. One of my websites is collapse.news. I've also got civilwar.news. My name's Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. My main website is naturalnews.com, and you can catch my podcast at healthrangerreport.com. Thank you for listening.
Learn more at healthrangerreport.com.
Thank you for watching. If you want to support our mission, visit us at healthrangerstore.com for the world's largest selection of lab-verified superfood and nutritional products for healthy living. It's at healthrangerstore.com.